I'll just say first, Kurt, what are your thoughts on this?
We're live.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sky U Pod, your Golden Gopher football podcast for the College Huddle. We got some breaking news that I'm sure many of you have heard about. It's a pretty big deal. So we've launched this emergency podcast. Joining me today is Kurt. Kurt, coaches have been fired, coaches have been hired, but probably the biggest news is that Perich is no longer a Golden Gopher. He has entered the transfer portal. And we're going to just start there for everyone that's listening. It seems that a lot of the SEC teams are expected to be pursuing him, as well as Ohio State and Miami. He did state he's leaving the door open on a possible return, but he did want to explore his options. I'm personally assuming he's gone.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, oh, don't worry, but no, we're just.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're gone. But anyways, Kurt, what are your thoughts on this move? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this as a possibility last show, right? I None of us thought it was going to happen, but here we are. It did. Let's be honest, like the emotional side of it, the fandom side of it, it sucks. This was the hometown kid that we all rallied behind. Rightfully so. He chose us over a lot of big schools at the time coming out of high school. Had a strong freshman season, struggled a little bit last year. Um, he was one of the highest paid players on the Gopher squad. So I'm not saying that we can pay him as much as anybody. I'm not delusional there. But to act like he was taking just like a massive discount, making well over $1 million to play safety at the University of Minnesota, I think is a bit naive. And we gave him the full stardom treatment. So I feel for the fan. I feel for us as fans. I mean, we invested a lot um, to keep him here as long as we did and to get him here. Not that Coy really owes us anything. Coy can do what Coy wants to do, but at the same time, as fans, we don't have to like it. It's okay to not be happy with the decision. It's not really amateur sports anymore, right? When you're talking about millions of dollars here that you know coming out of fans' pockets, coming out of the collective to pay guys. But it is what it is. Like he has every right to go out and get that $2 million bag from whoever it's going to be or whatever amount it's going to be. I don't know if it's just a money thing. Sounds like he probably wants to be on a team that's uh, more of a blue blood, obviously a blue blood team that's competing for the playoffs in the playoffs. So I think Ohio State or Miami is probably a reasonable team to land them. But yeah, it stinks as a fan, and I will say like I think the receiver experiment makes a lot more sense now. At the time, it felt really random, right? That all of a sudden we're gonna like put Coy on offense. Like that was just kind of announced mid-season out of nowhere. It's like, okay, we have a lot of receiver bodies in that room already, but I guess we're getting Coy involved. And Fleck was coming out and praising him for all these. He's a unicorn. These weren't Fleck's words, but he was being called the white Travis Hunter at one point in the offseason, and that was not the case, and it felt forced, and I think it was forced, and I think now we know it was probably to try and keep Coy happy and show him how involved he can be here and how important he is to this team to make him stay. Um, and yeah, the whole part you said about like potentially coming back, I that's not happening at this point. Like, why? I don't think you announced this. Be like, hey, I might leave, but it's possible I could come back. It's like it's like being in a relationship, but she's like, we can still date, but I want to see other people. Like out of nowhere, after you're already an exclusive. I don't know. I mean, I've never been in that situation, but I feel like Husker and Badger fans probably have or something. Anyway, um, that's the emotional side of it, right? Like, of course, I want Coy back. I wanted Coy to stay. We all wanted it to work out. Um, but at the end of the day, Coy wants to get as much money as possible and wants to join a team that's already built up to be a championship team and not be the guy that's the building block to build this team into a potential playoff team. So I don't know. That's the emotional side of it. That's just the Koi side of things. I'll let you jump in, I guess, before we can talk about what it means about the actual team, or you can go with that anywhere you want.
I totally agree with you, Kurt. I think that I think that he wants to maybe be a part of a team that can compete for a national championship. And I know, in the state of college football as it is right now, I do feel like anyone can throw their hat into the ring and see if they can make it, right, with the expanded playoff and just with how it's structured. But I feel like if you're with, like what you said, these blue blood programs, it's almost like they're guaranteed in. And if for some reason they don't get in, that means that someone's getting fired. You know what I mean? That these are like the Ohio States, probably the Michigans, Penn States. You look at the SEC. We know the teams. Um, my first thought was like, all right, is this a money move or is this a try to compete for the national stage? And I think it's probably more of the latter. I think that he does want to compete for championships. But I also do think, like, when you brought up Travis Hunter, I think he looks at that as an opportunity to build maybe his brand. I think, right, like I like you said, we probably were trying to really tailor to him and give him a shot at receiver, playing both ways. He's the punt returner. He's the Swiss Army knife, right? He can do it all. Um, and the experiment, we tried it, and frankly, it didn't really work. And I know we'll touch on what that kind of means, but this season, to be honest, wasn't impressive, I guess, by Coy. And maybe he looks at that as, maybe, I don't want to say fault, but maybe he looks at it at
As
the
the
program.
coach's staff. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, and obviously, if you're going, let's say he goes to Ohio State, if you're going there, yes, you're going to be able to, you know, do whatever you want. My thing is this, Curdy, and this is how we can transition into the next part about this. And I've said this before. At the University of Minnesota, you have the opportunity to be the guy, right? An all time great, the guy. And maybe you won't, you know, it's unlikely to compete for a national championship. But let's say by your senior year, you have a special team that does make it, right? And like you were a big part of that, and you saw it through from your freshman year onward, and you kind of helped build the program into what it is, and then you made it to that point. I almost feel like that's more meaningful than another banner hanging up at Ohio State, right? Because at Ohio State, you're just another guy. You're just a
Right.
guy that's been there. You're not the guy that's been there and that's kind of turned things around, per se. And so I feel like it's more special. It's more special and meaningful if that's what you do at a smaller time program. But I do feel like, unfortunately, even with the state of college football and maybe with how a lot of these young athletes are these days, they don't. I feel like that picture of college football has gone away, unfortunately. And I feel
Sure.
like now it's more of the, you know, let's make money now and let's go for it and compete on
Yeah.
the national stage.
Well, there's a couple things you brought up there. Like, Coy didn't grow up a Gopher fan. He didn't grow up a college football fan. So if you're Coy, who is, I'm not really even meaning this as necessarily a bad thing, but he is very much about his brand, like you said. Like, I'm sure the offensive side of the thing was in part due to him wanting it, and the coaches indulged in that, obviously. And I, if you're Coy, I think he's trying to maximize his time in the spotlight. So if he feels like that's going to the bigger programs and getting more money in doing so, he's probably going to do that for him, because I don't think being a Gopher is necessarily important to him. Now, when we're talking about being the guy, though, like there is something else to that too that we're not really hitting on yet, and that's that he won't be able to play like how he did this year with the Gophers and be kind of protected from the criticism that probably could have been thrown his way for his poor play. I know we felt it on this pod, like we don't want to come out and just be bashing the hometown kid who stayed home when he could have gone elsewhere for having a rough few games, which he did. You go to Ohio State and Miami and play like that. And I'm not hoping he does this. I'm not saying he's going to be struggling as much, but you're not going to be as protected. You're going to get ripped on. You might get benched. There's going to be better players behind you. So it is what it is. That's just something he's going to have to adjust to, just being an honest watcher of college football. Like he didn't cover very well and he didn't tackle very well. He has great skills at like being a ball hawk, and he's a tremendous athlete. So he has all the tools to continue to get better and be there. I think the part about, I'm not saying this isn't a concern of his, but to have a fear of Minnesota not being able to develop you when we have what, like 5 DBs right now that have been developed by the staff in the NFL, that were of lesser status and stars coming out of high school. I don't buy that. If that's really his thought, then I mean, he must be panicking because of how much he struggled. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm with you. I think it was probably the, it's probably a money and wanting to win immediately thing. But part of the reason, the emotional aspect that sucks too, is that we just signed our best, like rated, the hardest rated high school recruiting class ever. And so this year was shaping, this upcoming season was looking at a year where you could start to take another step towards that 2019 year of maybe jumping into that 10-win range, or at least getting really close and being really competitive with the talent coming in, plus with the expected returning talent. I mean, Anthony Smith is back, Carter Mentz is back, Darius Taylor's back. So this team was looking to make a major stride potentially, and to just have the hometown kid leave, it's a PR hit. Let's be honest, it's a PR hit where everyone looks at Minnesota like, oh, yep, the hometown kid tried it for a few years but left. When in reality, and we said this before he even jumped in the portal, this team can survive losing Coy Perich as the on-field product goes. We're the deepest position we have is the safety position. You have Kerry Brown, Aiden Gooseby is expected to be back. Those are your starting 2 safeties. I mean, we played 5 safeties this year. I know some of them were mixed in at corner, but we're doing fine. We have this Harden kid out of Georgia who's already tweeting like my turn. The coach has been really high on him. He played a little bit in the bowl game, I believe. So he got some playing time, and you have Garrison Monroe there as well, who's a redshirt freshman. So you have young guys already there. This isn't something where you have to go out and find the replacement in the portal. I'm not saying they won't add DBs in the portal for depth. They probably are looking to, but the next stud safety is already in the building, and that's Kerry Brown and who the young kids that they're excited about. So you're gonna be okay as far as the on-field product goes. It's just more of a PR hit, and people. I said that basically online, and I got told I was coping. Um, I don't think
I think
that's.
that that's the truth, actually,
It is
Kurt.
the truth,
It's the
and
truth. It sucks because we're Gopher fans, right? We want to see
right.
the hometown guys stay. So yeah, from on a personal level, it sucks, like you said. But if you really look at it, if he was gone this season, does that change our record? Probably not.
No,
Not at
maybe
all.
the Purdue game, I guess, because he had the winner, but he also struggled in that game. And for people to think that I'm just pulling out plays, I just want to read this because I think it gives context to what we're talking about, and we're not saying that Coy can't go on to do great things, especially like if he goes to Ohio State or Miami, where he doesn't have as big of a responsibility as covering or tackling. He probably could have a year closer to his freshman season. But let's just read this blurb. This was sent to me from the Gophers Sports Illustrated writer. The 2025 campaign was relatively disappointing, a disappointing season for Perich. He nearly doubled his total tackles from 46 to 82, but his Pro Football Focus grade dropped from an 88.9 as a true freshman to a 62.4 as a sophomore. a big contributing factor was 23 missed tackles in the 2025 season compared to only 6 in 2024. So it's not us being bitter fans. We're just pointing out that Coy wasn't that great this year. I mean, the muff punt against Cal probably cost the team any chance at winning that game. There was a lot of coverage issues too, even in the Northwestern game and the Cal game and the Purdue game. So it's going to be okay, is what I'm saying, as a on product team for the Gophers. And here's the other part: we were paying Coy over $1 million, and I gotta imagine Kerry Brown and Aiden Gooseby, not to that extent, but are being compensated pretty well as well. So to free up that much money, I gotta say, it almost honestly makes sense for the Gophers to not keep upping what they're gonna pay him, and to be like, okay, here's what we were willing to pay you. You were getting loved here. You were a bigger star on the team here than you're going to be anywhere else. If you want to go out and maximize money, completely fine. Go ahead. But this is our number, and we're not going to move on from it, because that's a lot of money for the Gophers. Like $1 million, over $1 million. You can go out and get some good, solid D linemen if you evaluate right. There's always that evaluation piece that you have to hit on in the portal. But I mean, I'm just throwing out hypotheticals here. Not top of the end guys, but to be able to go out and spend $500,000 on D tackles, or 350,000 on a really good corner, 700,000 on an offensive tackle, like those are real possibilities now for this Gopher team that probably set up the team to be better than they would be if you spent all that in just retaining Coy Perich. And again, that's not a shot at Coy. That's just the reality of where you are at as a Gopher program. And like I said, I want to make it clear, like, yeah, I'm not happy that Coy's moving on. I wish he was back. I wish it would have worked out, because he's the hometown kid, had a chance to be the hometown hero. You know, every little kid I felt like had a Coy Perich jersey at this point in time, which is, it's really bummer. But Coy can go out and maximize his, profitability in this day and age of college football, and the Gophers can now spend this money in areas that are going to help the team more. We can go out and buy an actual receiver instead of having Coy come out and run 3 routes a game. Be like, all right, nice job, Coy, and then move on from
Yeah.
there. So I'm not trying to sound bitter. I'll admit I'm not happy. Um, there's former Gopher players that said there's no loyalty here, and that's true. You can defend Coy's right to move on, but it's true that there's no loyalty. That's fine. Like, it is what it is. He has his right to go make money, and Gopher fans have the right to acknowledge that it's like crappy, that it feels crappy, and that you poured all of this, everything you could into him, and he hit the portal.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yep. I totally agree, Kurt. And yeah, I think that you make a good point that I didn't really think about. In terms of a front office move. It probably
Yeah.
benefits the Gophers, right? And I'm not just saying that just to cope, like some of the
Right.
people out there are saying, but if you think about it, that is money that can maybe go towards a position that we need help with. Like you said, safety position is pretty deep, and so if you can use that money that Coy was sucking up, you can put that into another position that's going to be solid, and then that's just going to probably boost the team overall rather than having one solid guy there. So I think it does make sense, and I feel like you got to be proud of Minnesota, the Gophers, to be like, this is what we're going to do. This is
Yeah.
how we're going to improve, and take it or leave it, essentially.
Right.
But yes, as you said, it does suck as a Gopher fan, and almost like a college football fan in the sense, right? Because that's just the reality that everyone's living in. But
Yeah.
I
I mean,
think that the Gophers will be better
right.
from it.
And to pretend like this is just a Gopher issue is ridiculous. Look at Wisconsin, lost a bunch of guys. They didn't necessarily have a Coy hometown hero on their squad this year, but Dylan Rayola left Nebraska. Like, all these players jump around. even players that were playing maybe not as much as they wanted at a big school, getting paid money, they'll hit the portal and get paid even more money, right? I mean, it happens. So I want to make this clear. It's not just a Gopher issue. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think we touched on everything
Yeah.
to hit on
Well,
there.
let's kind of transition here to the coaching staff then here, Kurt. Start with kind of some other big news. Matt Simon was fired, and old Golden Gopher Isaac Frichte, I can never
Thrifty.
pronounce Frichte. Yep,
Yep.
he's brought in as a replacement. So we all know Matt Simon. He's been the U's wide receiver coach for the entire time that PJ's been here. And he's also had that co-offensive coordinator role, which frankly, I feel like none of us really quite understood. But regardless, I mean, he was with PJ for the past 10 years, dating back to his Western Michigan days. So, an interesting move. And then, as we all know, so former receiver Isaac Frichte, um, he was an old Golden Gopher during during the Kill days, right? And
Yep.
he was frankly just like a classic gopher, I guess, in our lifetime,
Yeah.
right? Like he was a great receiver, great part. Good memories for him. He spent the 2024-2025 season as North Dakota's offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. So Curry, are you surprised that PJ moved on from Simon? And do you like Frichte as the replacement hire?
Yeah. I I am surprised that we moved on from Matt Simon just because of how long he'd been here. And me, I was naive in thinking that the coaching changes would have happened before the bowl game, but after signing day. So I know we moved on from our special teams coordinator there, but I right after the bowl game, and I'm like, okay, that was a new move. I just like the D line coach, right? We let go of him after signing day, but before the bowl game. I thought that's where most of the changes would have occurred. But yeah, I mean, Simon was a guy that a lot of Gopher fans were excited about super early on. If you remember in 2019, he got to call the bowl game. The game plan was already in place by Soroka, but then he moved on to at the time that was Penn State, and so Matt Simon called a great game against Auburn, and a lot of Gopher fans had high hopes that he would grow into eventually being the Gophers' solo offensive coordinator. But as time moved on, PJ clearly just felt he wasn't ready for that role, so we put him as co-OC, got him a little bit of a pay raise, and have him just stay as receiver coach and passing game coordinator, whatever that is. So yeah, this is the first long-term PJ guy that I feel like Fleck has just moved on from. And so I do think it signifies that they felt the need to change something quick on off. Well, I shouldn't say quick if they held on to him this long, but they felt like something needed to improve offensively in the passing game. Um, so they get rid of Simon. Simon's the guy to take the fall. And listen, if you were to just tell me that we had got rid of Simon, I wouldn't have and we hadn't hired anybody. I wouldn't have had very high hopes that this just magically solves everything. And there's a lot of receivers that we had brought in um, via portal recruiting. We had landed some 4 stars, but they just never really found the field or did very much out there. It was too far and in between when we had developed guys up like Daniel Jackson, Chris Ottman Bell. There just wasn't enough hits happening there at the receiver position. Do I think that's necessarily all on Matt Simon? No, but somebody's got to take the fall, and they moved on from Simon. Now, the news of hiring Isaac Frichte, who had been working as the offensive coordinator for North Dakota the last couple years and got it going. He was having some pretty good success there. Him being a former receivers coach at a few different stops, including Winona State. Shout out Winona State. Um, yeah, I think it was a great hire. I don't know if it's immediately going to come fix things, but to have somebody that has offensive coordinator experience to come up a level, work with the receivers where he played receiver, was a shifty, fast receiver himself, which I feel like is what we've struggled to coach at this point. Like
Yeah.
we've coached the like possession, good route running receiver. We haven't coached up like a slot receiver, kind of shifty, cut loose guys, and I feel like he'll help there. But also just helping Greg Harbaugh out as an offensive coordinator to have another voice in there to help out with the pass game, which has not been good. Greg loves his screens, and he can dial up like one specific play here and there that's good, but it doesn't really build off anything from the offense. If that makes sense. So to have another guy like Isaac Frifty come in and help out his alma mater, I think it's a great hire. And maybe it doesn't change anything, but I think it's a smart move.
Yeah. I totally agree. I love the move. I was surprised that PJ moved on from Simon for, I mean, all the reasons you touched on, Kurt. But I did want to kind of ask you a question here. We know that the Gophers kind of struggled offensively this year. How much of a role do you think Simon had in because of this co-offensive coordinator role compared to maybe a Greg Harbaugh? Do you think that it struggled because Simon was that extra voice and Harbaugh couldn't let loose per se? Or what do you think was going on there?
Yeah, no one will really ever know. I don't think Matt Simon's why the offense struggled the way it did this year. You can say receivers aren't getting separation, which is true to an extent. And he deserves some blame for that. But I mean, when you listen to guys like the insiders talk, like Ryan Burns bringing it more, like Brian Callahan has to adjust his run game. That's the offensive line coach and run game coordinator, and Greg Harbaugh also has to adjust his game plan to the O line. It really sounded like the struggles this year were more of a mixing of philosophy and play of the offensive line. And so I don't know how much is going to be fixed by getting rid of Matt Simon for that. So, um, I guess to answer your question, no, I don't think most of the struggle was on Simon, but they needed to make a move. They felt, and Simon is the one taking the fall. Kind of how I feel about the D line coach getting let go. To be honest, like there was poor coverage and poor tackling all over the field this year for the Gopher squad. Do I think it's because of the D line coach? No, but did the D line not play as disruptive as they probably should have with the guys they had? Yeah, same way with the receivers. Do I think the receivers were the main issue of the struggles for this offense? No, but did they play a part in not getting more separation and being more consistent catching the ball? Not just this year, but the last handful of years under Matt Simon? Yeah, they had a role in that. So, I think we even brought this up as a possibility of them moving on from Simon before the season started if it didn't go great for the receivers. I honestly thought that he was going to stay just with the development of Jalen Smith. I thought Tracy got better as the year went on. You saw guys like Malachi Coleman. I know he hit the portal, but start to play more and buy into more of the offense. So, yeah, I was surprised they moved on from Matt Simon. I don't blame him necessarily for all the struggles, but at the same time, I think with bringing in 50, I think you could see a chance at a large chunk of improvement here just with the changes being made. So we'll see what
Right.
happens. And
Yeah.
and I'll say this too, like I'll say thanks to Matt Simon. He had some highs here, right? Like he was loyal here. There was times where people thought like, oh, he might get snagged up elsewhere. Um, and I don't know if he ever had that opportunity, but he was kind of a hot name there around that 2019 season time, and he stayed loyal here. And unfortunately, he got let go. But I'll say thanks to Matt Simon for all he did here, and best of luck in the future.
Absolutely. Well said, Kurt. Um, and yeah, transitioning to the running backs coach. Wisconsin poached our running backs coach, was here for a season, but we replaced him with the legend Mo Ibrahim. We all know Mo. We get it. Greatest running back in Gopher history. He spent the last year as running back coach for Kent State. So, Kurt, what are your thoughts on Mo coming back to coach the running backs up?
Uh I'm just I'm happy. I don't know. I have no idea. It sounds like he was a good coach at Kent State, but just to have him back, it just makes you feel good. He was such a great Gopher. He best running back, I think, until you get back into like the Barber Maroney days. I hold Mo that highly as far as college running backs go. And it just made you feel good after like losing Coy, but then you
Yeah.
got it's like you brought in the cavalry of like old players to like, hey, we're here to help right the ship. I'm ecstatic. And what's being overlooked, in my opinion, and this is gonna be seen as nonsense to a lot of people. I think running back coach, your job's to recruit. You can coach running backs to an extent, point out things here and there. Obviously, you never stop coaching them up. You are brought in to recruit. Who does Darius Taylor talk about as like the main reason why he's here? Mo Ibrahim. Other running backs that are still coming in bring up Mo. Like they saw how much we used Mo. Um, the kid out of Texas who we got, the high recruit, Ryan Estrada. I'm forgetting his exact name off the top of my head. He would reference Mo at one point in his recruiting and just knowing of him and how we like to run the football. So I think it's being overlooked like, oh, wow, they just hired another offensive player or a former player, excuse me, on the cheap to keep things moving along. It's like, maybe that's part of it, but also people love Mo here and still remember what he did. And that's a sales point to a lot of running backs that we recruit. And I think Mo is going to do a great job here. He loved it here. Obviously, he knows the campus, he knows the program. He's going to be able to sell it as good as anybody. So, um, yeah, I think I saw certain like neutral just college football fans time of like, wow, how poor is Minnesota to like let Wisconsin take your running back coach and then just replace him with a former player. It's like it's Mo. It's Mo Ibrahim. Like I'd rather have Mo there than anybody. I think he's gonna do a great job. It's a recruiting position at the end of the day, and Mo knows the program. He's gonna be able to sell it. And you have Mo back in maroon and gold. Like so it's great to see.
Right. Yeah, and to be honest, too, we're gonna jump into this too here. We know that Taylor he's coming back next season along with Carter Benz. But with Taylor coming back, I do feel like this past year wasn't so great running the football. We all know that, and part of that's probably the offensive line. But I think this is a way to sort of reignite the running game that we kind of saw during the Mo games, or maybe earlier on when Darius Taylor was here. Coming back for your senior season to lay it all down on the line, to hopefully get drafted higher in the NFL, right? Mo's
Right.
coming back. I mean, maybe this is all coming together at the right time to really get that running game going again. So I think, like you said, I think it's great for the Gophers, great for recruiting, and I love the hire.
And you don't think that, with losing your running backs coach and Darius being undecided, Mo being hired was a huge factor. I guarantee you Darius knew about this, sooner
Right.
than any other player. This was probably told them like, hey, Mo's coming back. And I'm sure that played a huge factor. I was fighting that sneeze for so
Bless you.
long. I'm sure that played a factor in Darius coming back. So I think it already paid dividends right there. So I'm
Yeah.
happy for him.
Right on. Yeah, so let's just jump into some other significant news here, Curdy. Gophers hired a new special teams coordinator, New Mexico's Daniel DePrado. The Lobos had the 13th best ranked special teams per Bill Connolly's special teams plus metrics. Do you like the hire, Kurt?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what else we need to really even, see at this point. I mean, I know what we need to see. We need to see better special teams, but we're kind of rolling through that coaching spot right
It's
now.
a
So
carousel, yeah.
my hopes aren't super high, but on paper, yeah, it looks like a good move. He coached a kick return touchdown against the Gophers just in the bowl game. He also called a horrible fake punt right into Anthony Smith's arms, but now he's on the same team as Anthony Smith. So I guess we got that going for us. Yeah, they had good special teams according to every metric you look at. Really good kicking as well, and kick return game there at New Mexico. So yeah, worth a shot. He looked good against us. Let's give him our guys and see what he can do with it. So that's all I really got. I'm not
Yeah.
expecting water to turn to wine here all of a sudden, and all of a sudden these special teams are peak Iowa of Tory Taylor days and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I hope
Agreed.
so. It looks good. I'm rooting for them, and I
Yeah.
think you just got to put more time and effort there in general as a program.
Yeah, and you said this a lot, Kurt. Like you say, I think that the emphasis on special teams just isn't quite there, and it needs to be. I mean,
Yeah,
you said it. You look at Iowa; they can be terrible at offense, but their special teams keeps them in games, and they win. 9 games a season. 8, nine
right.
games a season, and sometimes can compete maybe to make it into the Big Ten championship. And I think that that's a maybe a PJ thing where the emphasis isn't quite there. But hopefully that turns around with this new hire. Um, as we said, Darius Taylor and Carter Menz are coming back next seasons. They're two huge impact players. I feel like Carter Menz, Kurt, is sort of like the dark horse that we don't really appreciate enough,
Yeah,
and I
he had
love him coming back.
absolutely, and I guarantee he got a nice pay increase based on his play this past season. He had 6.5 sacks. I believe that put him second on the team. And so now you're returning Jackson Howard, Anthony Smith, and Carter Menz, your three DNs that you used easily the most. So really good start here for that defensive front. And, now we can use some of that Coy Perich money on some defensive tackles and get that front seven short up.
Exactly. And then two new portal commits, Liberty quarterback Michael Merdinger and Purdue's running back Jaron Thomas. Um, so, yeah, what do you think about these two new guys, Curdy?
It's early in the portal. It's still open, so these guys can still get swayed away as we saw last year. But it is a shorter window, right? So hopefully it's not them being here for 2 seconds and then leaving. But like I said, the portal is still open, so nothing is set in stone. But to already have some guys in here, like the running back, I love the ad. I know only played a little bit as a true freshman at Purdue, but he's a 3-star guy. I believe he's like a 6 foot, 200 pound. I can't remember. I didn't put his size on the notes here, but it's a solid depth piece for returning
Yeah,
Darius Taylor. AJ Turner's coming back. You have this guy who has some experience, and you also have the mix of young kids, young freshmen that played this year, and the incoming kid who's going to probably play as well. So nice depth there for as much as we want to use the running backs. Good get. And the Liberty kid was at North Carolina as well, so he's another guy that's kind of bounced around here and there. We are losing a couple quarterbacks to the portal and one to graduation. So a guy with some experience to come in and compete for the backup job makes a lot of sense. So I like that pickup
right.
too.
Yep. Right on. And
That's all we
that's pretty
got.
much the news for now. But as you know, with the crazy landscape of college football, anything can happen still. So I guess to you listeners, just stay tuned to see if we got another episode coming out to address some news. Yeah, anything else you got, Kurt?
Nah, I want guys I want to be here. It's all good.
Right.
Like people can do what they want to do, but honestly, for as bad as it started out on when did that break? Late Thursday, early Friday, I think late Thursday that Coy was entering. To get the news of the coaches coming back, Darius coming back, Carter Metz coming back, like I'm not saying it makes up for everything, but it left me feeling pretty good at where we can go
Yeah.
next season, especially when you consider the money that's freed up now for the Gophers who just have to play a little bit more moneyball style than some of these other teams. So
Right.
it is what it is. I want to hear from you guys in the comments what you think. Um, I wouldn't recommend tweeting at players. saw that a little bit, but
Yeah.
but I kind of get it. It is
Yeah.
what it is. But let us know what you think in the comments, and yeah, we'll be here again when the portal closes, and or if there's any more breaking news. I can't imagine any more bombshells happening, but it
Right.
is what it is.
Yeah. And with that, thank you, Gopher fans, for listening to another episode of Sky U Pod. Please like and subscribe to our channel, which can be found on YouTube, X, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen to your podcast. Be sure to check out our partners' website, thecollegehuddle.com, for more podcasts and articles about all things college football. Thanks again, and have a wonderful weekend. Go